Valentine's is coming. Where is your girlfriend? For us, sports lovers, particularly where football is concerned, that means the UCL is back. I know the UCL has gone through many changes, but I love the fact that that tradition has been kept. You know, when it goes around that time of the year, that time of the month in February, that means Champions League fixtures are on the horizon. Not talking about that Champions League, though. Talk about another Champions League more closer to home. But welcome in the month of Love to Two Up Front. I am Jay, and as always, I am with Chuck. What up, Chuck?
Oh, good, man. Loving how things are going with Manchester United, with Orlando Pirates. So yeah, football-wise, everything's going smooth. So a rose to them in appreciation. So yeah, that's the only love I can speak of. But anyway, team or maybe a manager, co-coach who felt there was no love coming his way because Khalil Ben Youssef says, well, Chiefs are playing, representing South Africa effectively on the continent. And then when it comes to local football, there's fixture congestion. And there's no plans to at least alleviate all that fixture congestion in terms of giving them games to play later. Like, because Ben says, last year, Paris had the same favor and they were able to... Another team,
Chuck.
Sorry.
Name no names. He said like another team.
That's true. It sounded to me like Paris, but he did not name names. That's true. He looked back at a time when a team was given time to play their CAF fixtures, and then the league, he tends to say that the league is the one that does bend the knee and move things around. Do you think that statement is fair? When you look at how, obviously, they're traveling to Africa, they have to come back, play domestic games. Do you think the league should do Chiefs a favor? And number two, is the fixture congestion something that's an anomaly or particularly hard on them specifically? Because Sundowns are also playing continental football. Stellies are also playing on the continent as well.
Yeah, Chuck. Two things, right? First of all, the favoring of a particular club on the continent or the view that they represent the country is two ways for me. Mm-hmm. I've always pushed back against the idea that we need to support Chiefs, even if we are not Chiefs supporters, because they are representing the country, or Sundowns for that matter. And Sundowns were in the final, and we spoke about this, right? Ahead of that final in terms of we were going to the stadium. I'm a Sundowns fan. You're a Pirates fan. Are you there going to be cheering on a Sundowns, or are you going to be cheering on a Pyramids? And you played and said like or Pyramids, like you and our other friend was like Fiston is our guy. And when that last minute equalizer happened, you were happy, right? Mm-hmm. You were celebrating, and so it should be. I think those tribal lines should be kept the way that they are. The colors of the team you support are the colors of the team you support. That does not suddenly change where your rival becomes your team just because they're playing on the continent and they're from the same country as you. I think it's different though where the league is concerned, because for the league, Kaizer Chiefs are representing the PSL. They are representing South Africa. For organizationally, in terms of in those structures at that level, they are, and the league itself stands to benefit from Kaizer Chiefs, the Sundowns, the Pirates, Stellies, whoever else qualifies for one of those CAF interclub competitions, and you should try go out of your way to ensure that they do well. And how can you? Because the power to move fixtures around is in your hands, right? Mm-hmm. We saw most recently the game between Sundowns and Orlando Pirates moved from the end of last month in January now to the 18th of February, right? So you can do that. You can do that on a whim for whatever reason that you decide that you want to move games. You can do that. And if you decide that we are going to move games not to benefit Kaizer Chiefs solely by themselves, but to benefit all the clubs that are playing in those interclub competitions, Sundowns, Stellies, and whoever else might qualify in any other season, then yeah. And when the co-coach of Kaizer Chiefs points out the fact that it has happened for another club, he's right. He's right to point at that and say, wow, well, why are they benefiting and we are not, you know? I'm not certain though how exactly those moves are supposed to happen, because I've seen in some years Sundowns have had their PSL games front loaded where they play a bunch of games before other teams get to the same number of games. And then last year we saw in Orlando Pirates, their games were delayed. And if Pirates were still in the race for the league title in May, right? I don't know if they would have really loved having to play all those games into June to try bring themselves back to winning a league title. So I don't even know if the league itself really knows what is the best approach, which is why I'd sit here and say I don't think the league is trying is going out of their way to favor one team over another, because unless the change from what they did with Sundowns to what they did with the Pirates was research that said this is the best approach, and then they applied it to only Orlando Pirates. But the coach of Kaizer Chiefs has a point.
He has a point, but also, Jay, I'm wondering, Oguti, he has a point. To what point, right? Because it's a matter of, okay, Pirates are not playing, but Sundowns do, right? And so we've seen fixtures move around, not necessarily for one team. Because, I mean, we were wondering, I think, 2 weeks back, the PSL is back, but Sundowns. Where's everyone else? Never mind the ones who are playing on the continent. Where's everyone else? And then I think Sundowns played 2 games, and then also they went abroad to play, and then we then caught up, which is then Pirates and the rest of the league. But the rest of the league were somewhat ahead. That's why some on 16, some on 17, but Pirates, Sundowns, and Chiefs on 15. It is interesting that Pirates is on 15 games, right? Granted, they were playing cup games. Granted, they were playing Carling Cup and EM188, and so maybe there was a bit of delays there, and also those qualifying rounds to actually get into Champions League, there was a delay there. So maybe that's why Basimo.
Yeah, it was no
but
delay,
now that we're in the new year,
I'm not going to let you count those qualification games, because literally Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs and Stellies went through the same process. Other than Kaizer Chiefs, who were not in the MTN8, right? At that start of the season, Pirates and Sundowns and Stellies had Sundowns didn't play the first preliminary because they've been brilliant over the last 11 years in the Champions League. But for the most part, yeah.
So wait, are you saying
Pirates' schedule hasn't been worse off than those other teams?
I'm saying to begin with, right? Because Pirates were playing qualifiers, Stellies and Chiefs were playing qualifiers up until Pirates got knocked out. When Pirates were knocked out, I think they still had the MTN8 to contest, where their teams were resting, and it's just MTN8 weekend. And so when they are playing, maybe if they are playing, because I know in most cases it is MTN weekend, they're gonna play games ahead of Pirates. So by the time we got to December, by the midway point, I think Pirates still had 2 games in hand over Sundowns. I think things were fair in terms of that, in terms of how it was handled. But I don't know why now, because they have nothing else to play for but domestic competitions, why they haven't caught up. That's my concern. But in terms of how we got there, lapong right?
Of course you are.
But my concern is this. Khalil Ben Youssef says he would like the fixtures to be moved around, right? And I know last season was an anomaly, and I think fixtures had to be moved around because of when the league actually did start. And so it was cramped already to begin with, never mind adding the fixtures from the cups and from the continent as well. If we move 2 games ceasefire in April and May, will you not come back and complain? Is my concern, because then it might be the business end. Chiefs are now, I think they are almost certain to qualify for the next phase. If they're now in the last 4 or in the last 8, and they're also now in a chance to play the league, and they have to play back-to-back, play 3 games in a week, will you not like it? Will you like it more then, is my question. So for me, I think it's a shame that the fixtures are what they are, but I think, yes, the league can help, but what are you asking for? Because those games have to be played anyway. And I think it's the price for success. I mean, at some point, Jurgen Klopp fielded his under-21s because there were just too many games. And that's what happens when you're competing on a lot of fronts. So Chiefs, it's not our fault. It's your fault that you're in the confed. And it's a good thing. That's why and you keep saying this, so with the Pirates, signed the players because of African ambitions. Sapum. We released, you keep saying this, a 3rd kit for African ambition. Sapum.
That's exactly what happened.
But the idea is to be able to handle that load. And I think because Chiefs have not been there for a while, they somewhat forgot what it is and how to manage that load. So I think, yes, favors can be done, but how many fixtures must be moved? 1 or 2? Is that all it is?
Chuck, in all seriousness, right?
Yeah.
What you are saying in terms of this is the prize you win for success in terms of having a sojourn on the continent, right? Marumo Gallants famously got relegated in the season that they went to the semifinals of the Confed Cup. And what can you do about that? Because travel in Africa is brutal. The continent is the continent. It is what it is. You know, you can charter flights, whatever the case may be. It's not like in Europe. You can take a train between England and like London and Paris. And so on a flight, it goes like that. You know, that's not the same thing here in Africa. That's why Sundowns had their players in a private jet because, well, you've got the resources and you're trying to do it yourself. But in reality, there is but so much that you can do. Because when you ask the question, where are the fixtures supposed to be placed, right? What's going to happen with Kaizer Chiefs now is it's actually a good thing, you would think, if they go through the group stages as they look like they're favorites to do in the Confed, because they don't have Nedbank Cup fixtures. All they have now is Confed and the league. So their games are just going to be centered around a game in Africa and a game like here at home. And the thing is, if you keep progressing, that's gonna happen. You have to play those games, Whereas an Orlando Pirates just have the Nedbank and they've got the league. So they'll play Nedbank Cup fixtures when Nedbank Cup fixtures are played by everybody, and they'll play league fixtures when everybody's playing league fixtures.
Yeah.
Same thing is gonna happen with Sundowns, right? If they continue in the Champions League. And Ben Youssef is not unique. He's not the first one to complain about this. Rhulani has said like something similar in the past. Even Cardoso has said something similar in the past. But it's much easier to say that because I feel you are feeling the pinch of the travel, which is fair, right? And you're seeing what the data is saying about your players and where they are in terms of the loads on their bodies, which is a reflection of facts. But organizationally, like, where do you want those games? Because that's the question. Do you want them at the start? Because then if your players break down because they've just come through a preseason and they're not yet into the rhythm of a season, then you'll complain about that. But then if it's at the end where they are heavily fatigued, you'll complain about that as well. So I don't think there's much. I don't think there's much else that the league could have done, because it's not as if Pirates are just. He was talking about Pirates, by the way. It's not Pirates. It's not as if like Pirates are resting and lounging somewhere, and then their fixtures are played in months when the league is long finished. That's not the case. And also, the bare facts will tell you that a lot of Pirates have actually played more games than Kaizer Chiefs this season. So there's that.
But I think, look, just which I'm not necessarily sympathetic to his cries. I think, Jay, you had detailed in a couple of seasons, I think Rivero's last season and the one prior, the Pirates were playing close to 50 games because of how many games they would play with the domestic cups as well. So that's why you have to make some sacrifices. That's why there is that conversation of, do you focus on the league and do you focus on Africa? Do you really want to win MTN? Do you really want to win Nedbank Cup? Because it's a matter of taxing. It's a taxing time to try win everything. That's why but
why Pirates are because they're not in Africa.
That's for me.
But Lala in the league, because they're in the league and they're not playing on the days that Sundowns and Chiefs. Because you said, just to correct what you said, that we were asking why are Sundowns playing on those days that Sundowns were playing. Chiefs were also playing. Do you know why? Because they both have continental commitments. That is why they're playing in the midweek, and that's why Pirates are playing on the weekend, because that same weekend Pirates are playing a league fixture. They did not play in midweek. Sundowns and Chiefs are playing African fixtures. So logic left the room in some points. Like as I'm saying, I understand the feeling that he has towards his players and like the commitments of flying around the continent and everything that comes with. But if you take a step back and you just look at it, no one is being done a favor. Like, I'd love to sit here and say, like, Orlando, because there's a co-chairman on the club, I'd love to sit here and say that Orlando Pirates are being favored, right?
Yeah.
And yet I can't, because when I look at it logically, yeah, those are the gaps for the fixtures. Pirates are like they play with other PSL teams, and that's why everyone is on the same number of fixtures.
So, but Jimo, the number of fixtures, Pirates are on 15, and they haven't caught up. Is there any concern about maybe favorable treatment for Pirates in this league, or do you think that's what it is? Do you think
they've got the same number of games as Pirates, Sundowns, and Chiefs? They've played the same number of games as Sundowns and Chiefs. So, and why would they be ahead though? Because Amazulu are ahead. They're on 17 games. I'm not certain why Amazulu are on 17 games. That's just the quirks of the calendar, right? But everybody else is in a similar position. And in any given year, you don't tend to find the PSL where everybody has played the same number of games. And I don't know if the people who compile the fixtures just don't quite have it right, but that's what happens. And at the top, though, between those top three teams, Pirates, Sundowns, and Chiefs, they've all played the same number of games, and the picture is clear in terms of where everybody is and what they need to do going into the rest of the season.
Same number of games, but different calendar is what Ben Youssef is complaining about. So, okay, it's like 15, but you've had 6 more in Africa or 5 more in Africa. You guys don't have.
Pirates are not there. They're not there. They're not there to have those games. But you know what's going to happen? Pirates are going to be playing Nedbank Cup fixtures, and let's say they make a run to the final. Do you know what Chiefs are going to be doing on those match days? Resting, because they've been knocked out in the first round of the Nedbank Cup. So
yeah,
that is what it is. Chuck, a team that is on the verge of being knocked out of a cup competition, Mamelodi Sundowns, another disappointing foray into Africa over the weekend. They went to Limpopo and they drew that game 1-1, which puts them in a position now. It's very precarious They come back to Pretoria, last game of the CAF Champions League group stages, and they welcome, as fate would have it, because there are no better script writers than the football gods, right? They welcome MC Alger, who are coached, of course, by Rhulani Mokwena, their former coach, and they need to win. Can't draw. They need to win in order to qualify for the next stage. Chuck, if Mamelodi Sundowns fail to beat their former coach and MC Algiers in this fixture and get knocked out of the Champions League, is that the death nail for Miguel Cardoso?
I think first and foremost, Flamengo must come in like with security, because if everything falls apart on that day, and the guy that we want is there beating us, it's gonna be, the irony is gonna be a bit too real for the Sundowns fans. Now look where we are now. I think Jay, it must be. I remember certain Mangaba didn't even get to game number 6. They're like, it's not working. So we don't need you to be part of Sundowns moving forward. So they went to Cardoso. And I think with this run, right, because I think Mangaba had a similar run, that there was nothing MTN8, there was nothing at Carling Cup. It was okay, great so far in the league. In fact, with less points right now, Cardoso than Mangaba had started. And then Mopera, the CAF, I think Mangaba was second, was he not? By the time when he got fired,
they're drawn at home against I want to say Minamino. I just forgot the name of
Maniema or something like
that. After that was enough though. Like
yeah,
he only got that one game in the group group stages. He'd gone to the final and lost to Magesi in the Culling knockout. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, very very much before the end of the year, Sundowns had seen enough.
Yeah, so I think if you've given him this extended time, you've given him signings, you've given him players. Yes, Abo Saleng are still unfit, can't play, but you've had players who've had an immediate impact. Abo Brian Leon, you've had who else has added onto this season? Ndamasi as well. So you've had players, right? And you've had someone like Jaden Adams.
He also has his, you're talking about addition of players. Also has his Portuguese cohorts, right?
Yes.
Santos as well as. The number 7, his name is escaping me.
But he's got signings. He's got players. I mean, and even before making those signings, you were arguably the best team in the league, right? And obviously you were a force in Africa as well. If this is where you are with one game that's about to be played and you need to win it and you don't win it, it's curtains, because what else are you going to fight for? The league. Jay, it's one thing to lose in the semis, it's one thing to lose in the final, because that's like months later. But if we know now that all you're going to give us, we know now is the league, and Nakona, you have to chase Paris to actually catch up first. You're not even in top spot. I think it should be curtains, because there's been financial backing, there's been patience, and if you don't deliver the thing that's always been said to us, Africa, and you don't do that. I mean, granted, yes, he got to the final, and even that was not necessarily a moment that covered him in glory, because he lost ultimately in strong positions, right? Because you had the first leg, hold out, don't let Fiston score. You go back to Pyramids or into Egypt with a great advantage. Then you just have to hold out, score that one goal, an advantage that was let go of at home, and then obviously you have to toil in Africa. Sorry, in Egypt. If he doesn't win, Jay, for me, I think he has to go. It's not great for the side, but I think with Sundowns being the team that they are, I don't know anyone will be interim. They'll finish the season as well as anyone could have. So I think the big prize is the continental competition. If you get out there, I think he should pack his bags.
Yeah, Chuck, it should be curtains because he really needed to win the Champions League final. Had he won the Champions League final, he was Teflon for what is happening this season. Because even if you would have been unimpressed with the start of the season, even if you would have been unimpressed with the fact that Sundowns would have only had 3 wins on their way to winning a Champions League title, the Champions League title would have covered many, like waters covered the sea, right? It would have been, there's nothing to talk about. This man has at least 2 seasons in his back pocket if he wants to. But he didn't. He didn't win the Champions League, and that is the mandate. As far as we know, that is the sole mandate at Mamelodi Sundowns. Mamelodi Sundowns don't care that you come within 1 game of an invincible season. They don't care that you win a treble. They don't care that you go to back-to-back semifinals in the Champions League. They don't care that you implement different playing styles to try and unlock the second star. They only care about the fact that you do have that second star at the end of the season. If you don't have that, great potential, and you've been revolutionary in some sense, but there's the door, right? And then they bring in a Cardoso, and he hasn't. So again, I keep saying, on the precedent that Sundowns have set, if you don't win the Champions League, you must be out the door. If you don't qualify out of the group stages, Absolutely nothing
That's
to talk about.
shambles,
And
yeah.
especially, Chuck, as you mentioned, like if you then lose to Rhulani Mokwena at home to not have the opportunity to continue to try search for that second star, that is going to be bad. I really want to go to that game, but I don't think I will. I don't think I
don't
will,
think it'll be
Chuck,
safe.
for safety reasons.
Yeah,
For safety reasons,
it
I have
could go
seen,
bad.
I've seen Sundowns fans pelt a Pizzo Musimani before they really gave Pizzo a chance to turn things around, and then Pizzo went and he did what he did with Sundowns. They then did the same thing to this man after the great success that he delivered to Mamelodi Sundowns when he simply came back with Al Ahly. Hadn't said anything bad about the club, hadn't said anything bad about the fans, hadn't compared Al Ahly to Sundowns and how it's day and night, even if you can argue that is the case in terms of African pedigree. But merely because he wasn't coaching Sundowns anymore. With the kind of vitriol, I told you the other week, when Sundowns post the results or post anything on social media, there are more comments than there are likes, which is just the fans expressing they just how unhappy they are with the situation at Sundowns. They are talking to the admin to go report to the man upstairs, hey, ngalokun post izinto la, like kantan khulumi no Cardoso. And it's like this just somebody, there's an intern there who's just sending things out into the ether of the internet, and yena mele aphendulele ukuthi kwenzakalani in the boardroom. And Chuck, because of that prevailing like attitude and feeling around the club, I don't think it's going to be a good day if Sundowns lose. It's not going to be. Loftus is not going to be a place where anybody wants to be at, because I fear like the water squirt compared to what might transpire, right? And as you say, Guti,
Right there.
and Jarashiti, like in our faces, and that is happening. And in the words of that one king in Troy, is this what you left me for? Like I think Manalaus,
yeah.
like, is this what you left me for? So he has to win for his own safety, for Flamengo's safety, for the safety of the players, and just overall, then secondarily for him in order to keep his job. Because if he doesn't, then there's no question. You have to let him go.
I mean, Khalil Ben Youssef did say South Africa is being represented and it's a big deal. Move the fixtures around. This is a big game.
This game should have been played behind closed doors, Chuck.
Just
Somehow
to be safe, Jay.
manufacture something as to why Sundowns cannot play this game in front of fans and ensure whatever the result, everyone goes home safely. But I do just want to add very quickly, based on what happened in the game against Limpopo, the players are letting the coach down. If you go back 2 games at home against Al Hilal, afterwards he was flummoxed and perplexed in terms of, I don't know what to say, because we're easily playing through that team, but then in the final third we can't finish. And you could have played that post-match interview after the game against Limpopo, and you would not have known like in which game it was from. You would have thought it was from that game, because okay, there's a 60 million rand man who's coming off the bench, Chuck, and he can't even control the ball. He is through one-on-one with the keeper. He cannot control the ball. Matthews is still doing Matthews things, like Ubonipali, and then he freezes up. So in those situations, I don't know what the coach is supposed to do. You know, the players are letting the coach down in that scenario. But overall, just the picture of Sundowns is one where there's not been any shoe shine. There's not been any piano. The notes have become dull and the shoes are full of dust.
I mean, I was thinking to myself, how long can Sundowns keep this trend? Because if you get someone, at some point you must back them. Not everyone's going to win the Champions League every season. But I think with how the season has gone, it looks like not to be the best candidate, because I think if you look at someone like Cholo at Atletico, I believe it was Tolele. Regardless of what happens, they love him and whatever he's able to do with what they give him. And when you give Cardoso the players at his disposal,
Madrid, not Atletico, though.
Yes, and they're like, my man, give us something if you can't out the door.
This is why in the month of love, Chuck, previously we heard the rumors with Befuna love back from Opitsu. I don't know if he does, if Cardoso does depart from his job, if that is where they go again, but it's one worth keeping an eye on.
On the weekend, a game that Arsenal fans had a keen eye on is, can Liverpool do us a favour? Can they finally do something and just swat City away and therefore give us breathing room when it comes to the top of the log? Alas, they couldn't, because Szoboszlai scored another free kick and there's a Szoboszlai in a tight game with the free kick. It should be wrapped up. And then, they lose 2-1. Could have been 3-1, but things happened there in the end. City came back. Haaland found scoring touch, albeit a penalty, but he found scoring touch. There was sort of like a cagey affair. Both teams didn't quite play their regular football, or rather football from prior seasons, because this entire season they've been unconvincing, I believe. But to be able to win these tight games and to still be within touching distance, one could say, to Arsenal, is that enough fight for you when you think about a team that will be good enough to chase down Arsenal? Do you think City, with this display, said to you they could be problemsome or troublesome to Arsenal?
Yeah, they did, Chuck. This race is not over. And I actually enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed the game. In the first half, City were all over Liverpool. They should have scored within the first 2 minutes with Haaland, but then the 7-game or 8-game goal drought, something that came to a fore until he had the penalty. And City, very much like in the game against Spurs, where they should have scored like 5 goals in the game in the first half against Spurs, they left chances on the table, and you wondered, because this tends to happen in football. If you don't take your chances, you tend to get punished. Football is vindictive like that, And then the second half, Liverpool came back strongly and they put on a good showing. They pinned City back in their own half, in their own third, in fact, and they deservedly took the lead for the balance of play in that second half. And when Szoboszlai scores that free kick, I'm like, this is poetry, because this is exactly what happened to Arsenal. They came there and they experienced a Szoboszlai special and could not come back in that one. I was like, well, there's more time left on the clock, but yes, this is how it happens. This is how it's supposed to happen. Do Liverpool not go and remind me that this is not the Liverpool of the first 5 games of the league? This is the Liverpool who find themselves 17 points off the top of the table. And now with City having done that double for the first time since 19 who knows what, right? 100 years ago against City. And I'm looking at that and thinking, Liverpool only gave up a single point to Arsenal. They won at home and they drew at the Emirates. And against City, they gave up 6 points. I'm like, right now, this is the difference between Arsenal sitting comfortably and feeling, you know what, we have this in the bag, versus we might have a Pep Guardiola Manchester City run-in special. Because Pep was speaking about that 14 games is a long time. Still very many games to go. And he knows how to prime his team for the run-in. It's not look like that's the team that's going to go and do that this season. But since you're asking me based on that performance, I was really impressed with their performance. Gehi is a good signing. Semenyo is a brilliant signing. The way that he supports Haaland, where he drifts centrally, and he can play across that entire front line. He's on the right, he's on the left, is his left foot, is his right foot. He comes through the middle. He can finish. He's powerful. He can run. He's somebody I watched in that match again, thinking, man, this is the upgrade that Arsenal needed. You put him on that left-hand side, and it's curtains. It is absolutely curtains. The question around City, though, is still very much a Rodri. I heard the stat that Rodri is the most pressured player in the league this season since he's come back from his injury. And teams are clocking the fact that if you stop him from playing, you stop City from playing, right? And maybe he isn't as good under pressure as a Busquets. Maybe with a lot of space, that's when he's able to dissect you and absolutely put you to bed. This is what Maurice was speaking about on the Stick to Football podcast, that all the old players feel like they would thrive in the modern game because nobody gets to anybody. I think they might be a little mistaken because the pace is so much different. When I see those games from the 2000s, even I was like, wow, I actually can't believe what it was like. And this is what Anthony Gordon was talking about as well, right? Yeah. In terms of in the Premier League versus in the UCL, it's harder. It's just like more physical game in, game out. But that is something that the other teams have clued into where City are concerned. But the thing is, Chuck, what I did see is that they do have quality in other places. Turkey is a magician, right? He's doing whatever he wants and nobody is able to respond to him. I already mentioned Semenyo. And you don't think Haaland is going to go the rest of the however many games are left in the league without going on another hot streak in terms of goal scoring. So that is going to happen at some point as well. So yeah, Chuck, I saw enough there to suggest that especially the opponent, we're talking about an Arsenal who've not reacted very well to pressure. If you put that pressure on them, because it feels like all the pressure's on Arsenal, right? And City are sort of kind of playing with house money. And that's a dangerous Manchester City with the dangerous players that they have.
I saw it completely opposite to you, Jay, because I saw two teams that were not quite sure of themselves. They played football, but they weren't decisive. Like, there was a point in the second half, and I think Ruben Diaz had come on. And yes, players have got shirt numbers on their back. But for a moment there, I thought it was Ruben Diaz who had the ball because there was a pass to be made and the player hesitated. But it was Rodri. And I was like, usually you play those balls because you know the person who's going to receive is going to be able to turn and do something with it. And I think that's why I saw a comment on social media saying, "Can Bokela go right on the right-hand side of City because Semenyo's coming and he's just starting all the time." That shows you how ineffective the likes of Savinho and etc. were. So I think when you look at that, the fact that Haaland wasn't guaranteed to start according to Pep's words, but he did start the match. The confidence is not at an all-time high. I think they're playing with whatever they have, and they've got bits of magic here from Foden earlier on. Turkey does that. They've recently welcomed Ait Nouri back from injury. Semenyo is that booster in energy in terms of just giving them something else as far as options are concerned. Bernardo Silva is trying, but I think he's doing a lot more work than he needs to do. Right on the other side, in Merseyside. I was waiting to see where Mo Salah was in the first half. I just couldn't locate him, right? And they didn't have a shot on target, I think, the entire first half, or if not, very late on is when it actually happened. Gakpo, not much. Ekitike is someone who wants to give them an outlet. He's the one who's inventive. Szoboszlai was all over the pitch. I think he had a decent game. For better or worse, I think he was just involved in all things, right? That's why I got the red card as well. But when I looked at those teams, I looked at teams that were not quite sure of themselves. We've got the players. We look around, it's the same personnel, the guys who should give us in games what they do in training, but it's just not coming together because you don't create that many chances as City and not at least have one in the first half, right? Yes, they won the game eventually, but Erling Haaland again reminded me that he is a lethal striker in the box, but he's not a game winner because early on in that game, yes, the right foot is not your favorite foot, but Chip Allison, put that away, and then it changed the complexion of the game altogether. But he fluffs that chance. Other chances go begging as well. So as the game went on, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be 0-0. Because I saw on a betting app, what it draw is 13 times 13. So I was like, 13, odds of 13. But as the game went, it obviously dropped down to 2. I was like, yeah, would have been rich. But anyway, my point is this year, Uti, as much as they got the win, and as much as it does feel good to get over the line against tough foes and oppositions, for me, it wasn't quite the most convincing display. It was good football in terms of what they tried, but I think when they're in their element, things come off a bit smoother, things click a bit better. So for me, it was good to win. It's good to keep the pressure on Arsenal, but I don't know if this side will continue to do that.
Yeah, Chuck, where Liverpool are concerned, I think Gakpo's time is come and done, maybe at Liverpool. And you look at Diaz at Bayern Munich, 13 goals in 19 games, and he's got a handful of assists as well. Like
on the weekend, he won 2 penalties,
taken the money still.
Scored a hat-trick. Central to everything. 5-goal contribution. Right. Yeah.
And then Mo Salah, I think the funeral procession for his time at the very top might be at hand. 6 goals in I think 25 games, and it's not just the goals, right? You look at the performance, it's not great. And then in terms of what they have in midfield, they don't have any defense in midfield. So Szoboszlai is their best player and is playing at right back. And that's out of necessity because they don't quite trust Frimpong to be like a natural right back right now. And they still need a centre-back. You would have loved to see a Guehi sign for them instead of being on the other side because Konate looks like he's going to walk on a free at the end of the season. So there's a lot for Liverpool to figure out, like going into the next season. This season is absolutely down, of course. In terms of City, not the Centurions. These are not the Centurions, and I'm not even saying that that's what it is, right? But there's enough there, Chuck, in terms of the coach and some of the players' experience, like Bernardo Silva, like Rodri, like Haaland, who at Diaz, who know what it takes and have been there. And as I say, if you learn how to win, you know how to win. That's in your blood, so they can reproduce it. Now, do I think they will? I actually don't. I think great performance against Liverpool, right, and great performance to do the double over Liverpool. But I think they drop points against Fulham, because that's what I've seen this entire season. And could it happen that they capture lightning in a bottle and they go on the last 10 games, they win 9 games and draw 1? They could, right? But based on what I've seen over a mountain of evidence this season, I don't think so. So it would have given me hope as a City fan, and because of what I've seen in the past, because of what I've seen in the recent past, I don't think they'll be able to do it. I still think it's Arsenal's to lose.
I mean, in a season where Arsenal have been, honestly, not amazing, great, right? Because you don't get to be top of the league with that
I mean,
many
very
points.
good.
I mean, very good. They can be better. Is a verdict amongst most people. It would take Arsenal to slip up more than it is City finding another gear. I think in terms of what we've seen so far, because Arsenal have wobbly times, but you trust them more to rediscover their form than City. So I think for as long as Banabo Mamush, a decent game, but then faded, and you're like, okay, what else are you giving us? Where Arsenal are finding. As will be Mendy finding goals, but Gyökeres finding the back of the net. Regardless of what you feel or think, he's scoring. And so these are things that are important that are racking up the points for your Arsenal as well. So I don't think Pep's boys go all the way, but if they do make it a race, it'll be interesting.
Well, we will see if indeed it is interesting. That is the last bit of interesting news where football is concerned, because as of next week, if a certain team wins against West Ham, there's only going to be one thing that is dominating the news headlines in football. It's going to be haircuts. I can't wait for that. But we will be here talking about maybe not that, but everything else that has happened and that is happening in the world of football. Thank you for joining in here on Two Up Front. If you are new here or you're returning and you've not done so, please do press on that subscribe button. Like all of what we are putting out, please put down your thoughts in the comments section. We love hearing from you. We love responding to you. And you can continue the conversation as well across all social media platforms. You can find us at 2UpFrontPod. You can find me at J_Mzulu. You can find Chuck at Chuck2Up. To those who are favored and those who are not, happy Valentine's. Somebody loves you out there.
Jay, this is for you. Do you think, and tell me if it works, do you think Cardoso's impact is centrifugal?
It is not benefiting the team internally. It is flowing out to the benefit of other opponents.